Hey everybody, welcome to Fridays Live with Ty. I am with Rebuku and today's guest, Cynthia Hutchinson, volume sports photographer out of Arkansas. Welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Thanks for having me, Ty.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about you, your years in business, name of business, where you're located, all that good stuff. Kind of give us some background.
Okay. Well, I'm Cynthia Hutchinson. My husband Randy and I live in Northwest Arkansas, Springdale to be exact. We're right between Fayetteville and Bentonville, home of Walmart, of course. Springdale's home to Tyson Foods, so those are our claim to fame, and it's brought a lot of people to our area, which has had significant growth in the last 15, 20 years. Great economy here. Um, we started, I started out in photography in high school, actually, and growing up, my parents owned it's called Kiss Photo. It was one of those drop your film off and we'll have it ready in an hour kind of
Oh,
places.
yeah.
And we had a little studio in the back, and um, we'd have photographers would come in and do headshots, or my stepdad, my mom would do stuff occasionally. Um, my dad, my biological dad, was a very avid um, amateur photographer. Um, he actually had a dark room set up in our house. And so I've been around photography for a long time. Um, Went to college and studied interior design, which I don't know, never really did a whole lot with it, but got married and started a family. We have 3 boys. They're all grown, married. We have 5 grandkids.
Wow.
But as the boys were growing up, it's kind of funny because if anybody's watched your interview with Kimberly Malone, our stories are real similar because she has 3 boys. I have 3 boys. I think that's why we hit it off
Okay.
5 years ago when we met and became fast friends. But uh, it's always had a camera in my hand, was always taking pictures of the boys when I played sports, and parents, I would be like, oh, I took these pictures of your kid. Here you go. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, these are so good. And anyway, fast forward to 2009. I had actually been doing some like senior photo sessions and family portraits for friends and family, and the social media world kind of took place, and people started posting my pictures, and that led to people going, oh, will you take our pictures? And so 5H photography was born in April of 2009.
What's
Pretty
fun
much did
thing for
5H. Well, there's 5 Hutchinsons, my
okay.
husband and me, and 5 boys. My husband's self-employed insurance, and we had actually incorporated. We created a corporation for him called 5H Services um, several years before that, and so to keep things kind of easy with the accountant and all that stuff, we just did 5H Photography as a sub company of 5H Services. Um, and we we started out, I was doing 50, 60 seniors every year, families. And then in the summer of, became an actual business in April of 2009. And a little summer football league called Kids Day Football in Springdale actually called and said, hey, can you do our football pictures? Um, And I was like, well, I don't know why not. We'll take them outside, and so that was our first entrance into the volume sports world, and we loved it. I mean, it was great. We shot it in like 3 evenings, and it's a real quick little summer. The whole season is like 3 weeks long. The kids practice for 2 weeks, and then they play little round robin games one weekend.
Okay.
I'm actually taking those pictures tonight.
Are you?
This is I've been doing it since 2009. Um, they've been playing Kids Day football for 71 years in
Wow.
Springdale. It's a big deal to our community. But anyway, fast forward to about 2011 or 12, I started deciding I wanted to do that more and started talking to school teams. My kids were in high school at that point, and I just kind of started getting that into that. And then I got into our Springdale Rec Center, asked if we could do their soccer pictures because their photographer that they had didn't want to do soccer. Um, we have a very large Hispanic community, and that was about the time it was kind of exploding, mainly because of Tyson Foods. Uh, but it was so soccer was huge. Like they
Yeah.
were suddenly had gone to have from having maybe 20 soccer teams to having 60 soccer teams, and that photographer was overwhelmed. So we took that on, I think in 2011 or 12. But it just blossomed from there into doing all of Parks and Rec. And then, I mean, it just gradually after once my kids kind of were out of high school in 2016, I pretty much said, you know what? I don't want to really do the portrait thing anymore. I like volume. I like the fast pace. I like the money.
Yeah.
and and it was just so it was kind of a natural transition for us to just leave the portrait stuff behind. I mean, and go strictly into volume.
Did you find it so probably wasn't as big a deal for you switching from that creative mind to that business mind from portrait to volume because you were so excited to move into volume.
Mhm.
Um, but I do find that that's a barrier with a lot of when you're starting in volume photography, new photographers, kind of leaving that some of that creative mindset behind and switching into that business mindset because volume is such a different animal, as you know.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Um, my husband has a degree in marketing, so he was great at kind of looking for opportunities, looking to talk to people, coaches, different things. He's also on the school board in Springdale, so we have a lot of connections, and that really was a benefit. We greatly benefited from his connections. But yeah, it was kind of hard because I like the artistic side of portraits.
Yeah,
Um, that was probably my biggest struggle was leaving that behind,
sure.
but I kind of found an outlet for that in senior banners.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good
I
one.
personally do all of our senior banners for all the schools that we do, and that gives me, and it's not as big a deal anymore, but yeah, that was that kind of
That
helped.
gives you that creative outlet, that
Yes.
time behind the computer to allow you to create and design, and it kind of
Hmm.
fulfills that void.
Right. And I mean, I don't design them all from scratch. I use the best in the graphics business, Third
Right.
Creative, Josh Hanna, Ben Shirk,
Yep.
all of them. But it's fun to mash them up and put my own spin on them and things like that. But they certainly help get me
So
going on them.
when did you get to the point where you were like, wow, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I really need to start outsourcing my services, whatever else you're outsourcing? Where did you start to really start dialing that in and streamlining that for your business?
So it was kind of a very interesting chain of events or whatever you want to call it. So in 2019,
Mhm.
the photographer for our Parks and Rec department, or that had done the pictures forever, I think he was still doing them on film, but he was he decided he was finally going to retire, and so Parks and Rec called me and said, "Can you take over all of the pictures?" So that meant going from just doing the soccer teams in the spring and the fall to adding their baseball and softball teams in the spring and also in the fall, plus football in the fall, volleyball in the winter, basketball in the winter. And I was like, I can't, because we were doing the soccer pictures out at the park, with just a natural background, a little flash on the camera, I wasn't even using off-camera flash at that point. And it had become a nightmare because they had gotten to where they had, 80, 90 teams. They were playing at 2 parks, and I had to deal with April in Arkansas, which is full of, unpredictable weather. It could be 30 degrees and snowing. It could be, 80 degrees and not a cloud in the sky, or it could be pouring down rain. So, and to try to reschedule all that if you had a rain out was impossible. So I was like, I need to look at doing green screen and doing composites. So it was very scary to me because I had no clue about anything, and somehow came across a little conference called PSU Live run by Sean DeMint with
Yep.
PSM Graphics.
Yep.
And I told Randy, and I said, I need to go. I need to go to this. I'd never gone to a conference of photography, any kind. And so, and I was set to do those pictures that spring. And so I went to that conference in February, all set to do green screen. I'd already bought green screens and lights and everything, and got there. And it's where I met Kimberly and Stella. That's where that all started. But green screen scared me to death. Just because, I didn't know anything about it. So Wes was there, your good friend Wes with Next Gen, and he got up there. And before I left Florida, I had ordered 3 highlights and another camera and another set of I'd spent like $12,000 before I even got home. I was all in. I was like, okay, I can do this. The white screen, I loved it. I didn't have to worry about spill. So I went all in with Next Gen and did that in the spring of 2019, and it was all good. Even booked a new football team that wanted to do the composite thing at one of our big high schools, Fayetteville High School. And because the coach there had seen it when he played college ball, and he knew he loved, he liked the whole idea of doing it with high school. So we got into composites in 2019. And then what happened in 2020?
COVID. You needed to do composites, everybody, regardless.
COVID. And that football coach from that one school, when the Arkansas Athletics Association that governs all the public schools said, no pictures, absolutely no pictures can be taken. We don't want you lining up 80 players in a stadium side by side. And of course, coaches were freaking out because the parents were freaking out. And that Fayetteville football coach in a coaches meeting in the 7A West said, well, here's what you got to do. You got to call Cynthia. And that led to every other fall sport calling me. And I basically about worked myself to death in the fall of 2020.
Unbelievable.
It was nuts. It was so crazy that, I was literally working 80 hours a week, 80, 90 hours a week to keep up with everything. And I'd found Photo Day. Luckily, I'd found Photo Day. So the two of, doing composites and then finding Photo Day in the spring of 2020, actually found that right when COVID first hit, as a way to avoid contact. And they've been a great partner with me ever since. But I ended up hiring a full-time employee in the spring of 21. So, and we've not looked back, and it's crazy.
How many leagues or heads do you estimate you're photographing a season or a year?
So our Springdale Parks and Rec is probably around 4,000 a year if you count spring, and probably between 4,000 and 5,000 a year if you count spring and fall, the big, baseball, soccer, and softball, and then volleyball and baseball, or volleyball and basketball. And then I have another small youth league that's probably 500 heads. well, it's probably more. It's probably 1,000 because we do football, basketball, baseball, and softball for them. But then we don't do any school portraits, but we do sports, and we're in about 27 schools, 7th through 12th grade, in a 2-county area here in Northwest Arkansas. And that's I don't know. I know last year I counted and I did something like 470 something senior banners
That's a lot.
just in this last school year. But we're in, there's 4 big towns, and we do pictures in 3 of them. I mean, not everything, but we do um, all the junior high and high schools in 2 of the towns, and then several of small towns that are in the outlying areas. So we do a lot of sports. I'm not even sure, but it's a lot.
Okay. And then obviously, you connected with us at Rebuku, started working with us, and Photo Day and Rebuku, the way that's kind of set up with some of that capture app information, it kind of works out pretty well with us. How's that working for you?
I mean, it works great. We used it. So my Parks and Rec League, we actually just switched to Photo Day this spring. We
Okay.
had we had been holding out with paper order forms. I mean, up until this spring. Well, technically, we actually did Photo Day with volleyball and basketball through the winter, but that's 30 teams. It's small and did okay, and not great. But the time involved after with placing all those orders, it was just too much. And I was like, I've got 5 grandkids that I really like to spend time with. And I'm like, I mean, just doing all those, placing all those orders and doing all that. And it was just, I was like, we're doing Photo Day. And it's really gone better than I expected as far as parents. I haven't, I haven't had to have a lot of dealings with parents that couldn't figure it out. I mean, there's been a handful, but I mean, it was 1,500 kids. So you expect that.
Yeah. So the
Um,
learning curve has been pretty easy for the parents.
Yeah, and a lot of them have older kids, and they've already done Photo Day with the schools that are in town, and or with Kids Day football like we're doing now. We've done Photo Day with them for a couple of seasons now, and so I mean, a lot of them have figured it out, and it really hasn't been an issue. But it really freed up so much of my time. I mean, I was, once I got everything back from Rabuku, and it was just loaded and done.
Good.
So it was
Yeah.
great, and
We really appreciate Photo Day. They're good partners, good friends to us, and that system that kind of you and Kimberly and Stella are using, it's pretty bulletproof. I really like the capture app process, getting the CSV. You get
that
that.
was so helpful. Yeah, with that many kids, that capture app was, I mean, that was a lifesaver. And my photographers didn't have to write picture numbers down. And I mean, it just flowed so much easier. Um, there were a couple kids that got biased, but we figured it out.
Yeah. And one thing I like to tell clients and people thinking of either using Rebuku, Photo Day, or both, or whatever, this is like building a solid relationship. It is building a solid relationship, so it takes time.
Mhm.
Especially with Photo Day, you need to really go through, let them teach you the steps to make it successful for your selling, for your setup, for your ease of use for parents, and really the same for us. We want to do test work for you, get it all aligned,
Yes.
make sure it's ready. We don't want to be in the middle of September and you be like, "Hey, I got 100-team league next week. I need you to do." We're going to say, "Wait a minute, no, we need to do
Yeah.
test work with you so that we don't turn this into a nightmare because we don't
Right.
know you, you don't know us." And it's the same with Photo Day. And I think the biggest problem I see is a lack of preparation
Yeah.
because I think for photographers, it's very important to know that June, July, January, February, man, those are your best preparation months.
Hmm. They
That's
really are.
They really are. And if you're like, okay, I need to outsource or I need to really get my workflow efficient, you've got to dial it in, you've got to focus and hone in to get that done because it'll make your spring and fall so much easier.
Hmm. And that's why one of the things I love about Rebuka, and I was not upset or unhappy with Next Gen. They're fabulous. I love Wes to death. He's always going to be a dear friend of mine, and
Absolutely.
I, you know, and of course, they've really incorporated with Got Photo, and Got Photo has tried to recruit me. I mean, they've called me I don't know how many times, and they're great. They have a great system. They're a great company, but I've got Photo Day figured out, and I don't need to learn anything new. And it just Rebuka just offered a little bit more personalization, which was very important to me. It was my one drawback with Next Gen was having to go through that. I couldn't just get the PDF and make a quick change of something, move somebody, or in a team. I had to send it to them and wait for and it worked. It was fine, but
Yeah,
doing
so
a
I think what you're touching on is, you're getting your teams back in layered PSDs, and you can update that kind of quickly
yes,
on your end if you just want to make a quick adjustment or something
just
needs
yeah.
slightly.
If it's basically good, and there might just be something that all right, I just want that one little thing moved, or just move that title, that team name up, or I just soon do that on my end. I
Yeah,
mean,
and that's
and
that's one of the freedoms we really try to provide people, especially when they're providing us their own templates,
yeah,
is, hey, we can give you back your teams and layer PSDs and
yeah, and that's like that sold me in like that. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I can get the layered PSDs back, and I can send them, and I love being able to send you the template with my little quirky changes, or
yeah,
whatever. And if there's times that I love everything about a template except the font that they used,
yep,
so
understood.
I'll change the font, and I can send that in with with the job. And you know I couldn't do that with Next Gen. I couldn't change fonts or anything. So,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of people that's not a big deal, but I
No,
guess that's my creative side of me, and want to put just little tiny personal touches on things. And the Robuku system is amazing. And I still use the online Robuku part too for small jobs that we do. If I just want extractions, I mean, I, I've tried them all. I can't get better extractions anywhere else.
we're pretty
I mean,
proud of the job we
yeah.
do. We've worked hard to become that, but you know, I think that's great that you speak on that, and thank you very much. The big difference between us and software and AI is there's no review and repair.
Mm-mm,
So if you're doing 1,000 images, 500 images, you run them through a software or AI, it's really on you to
mm-hmm,
review them and fix them. Where we're making sure all that meticulous detail, our goal, we have a less than a 1% fail rate, but we do have
mm-hmm.
some jobs that we have to redo, and we're human.
Oh yeah, that's normal.
But the review and repair is very important when it comes to volume work because when you're deep in the weeds of your spring and fall, you do not have time to deal with this. And
Mm-hmm,
I think one of the misnomers is photographers take on this feeling like, well, if I do it myself, I'm making more money.
no,
But
you're
it's
not.
not. In
Time
hindsight,
is money. I've
in
learned that.
hindsight, you're losing money because for every hour you're spending behind that computer, it's costing you $250
Exactly.
an hour that you could be making out on the field.
Exactly. I mean, that's why we've grown. Outsourcing, and that selling online with Photo Day. I mean, that frees up. We wouldn't be able to do what we do
No, it
otherwise.
allows you to be a machine as a photographer, and
Right.
I think there should be big letters or big boards above every office of every photographer that says, "I only make money with a camera in my hand."
Yep.
That's
Very true.
yeah. And as being a volume X volume photographer, you know, it's kind of been obviously listening to our clients. I'm very sensitive to our clients' needs and trying to always make things better. But I can remember as a volume photographer, that's why I wanted layered PSDs in there for teams, because I want there to be a flexibility for clients to move and do the things they need and not have all this back and forth. Because let's be honest, you spend more time back and forth with our production, it's also bottlenecking our production team too, because they got.
Exactly.
So if there's small things you'd rather make rather than playing with proofing, let's get that off to you, let you make those little changes, and let's get on to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can do it myself in less time than it takes me to explain to them how to do it
Yeah.
or what I want. I mean,
No,
it's just
totally get it. Totally get it. The only
and
time you can't do those layered PSD is when somebody's using one of our proprietary templates from a designer. But
right.
I always encourage photographers, send us your own templates, because that's going to give you much more flexibility.
Yeah, and I have a massive library of templates, so I'm usually buying Dawn Wards as soon as they
Yeah,
release them. So
yeah,
I mean, it's just and I like having that flexibility, and I like being able, and I've worked with Mark back and forth, and he's great.
beautiful.
And I send those detailed order notes and they do 95% of it right. I mean, there's just usually very little that doesn't come back perfect. And I think that's the important thing is you just gotta lay it out there. You just gotta tell, step by step. I mean, if somebody wants me to do something, the more detail, the more instructions they give me, the happier I am because then I know I can do the job as correct, as close to perfect the first time. And that's what I like about working with the team
Well, thank
at
you.
Rabuku.
Um, yeah, and you had mentioned, with the extractions going through the online, and that's where a lot of our services are ordered, is through the online.
Yeah.
But you as an enterprise photographer, and I've got that little banner running across the bottom of our screen now. We have enterprise solution for volume photographers where they don't have to deal with our online. You're
Mhm.
simply dealing with one email address, an FTP account to send everything up, and you're dealing directly with our team. And I think that's really important for people to know, because it makes getting the job over to us and getting the work done so much faster.
And it is very fast. I mean, very surprisingly fast. So,
Yeah.
and I like that, once they get the extractions done, they'll upload the PNG files for me so we can go ahead and do our
While we're
get our banners made, yep. We'll run everything just with a white background and then turn it black and white. We can, my assistant can do all that stuff while we're waiting on the proofs of the teams and the graphics.
Yeah.
So that, it's just it's just a better workflow, smarter workflow, and then just getting those PSDs to make any minor little changes, or if we had somebody at the last minute come in that didn't get added, it's super easy just to say, okay, we'll just add them in ourselves and be done with it and upload it the same day. So it's it's a win-win, and I mean, it. I don't know why everybody doesn't do it.
Well, thankfully, we are still growing with it. There's a lot of
Yes.
time we're still learning about it. We're growing with it. We're educating photographers. Our team is actually, we've set up a small studio outside of our office, where our team is now photographing on like a highlight.
Oh,
And they're
awesome.
learning this because we want them to know exactly what you're doing,
I mean, I think that's fantastic.
and
I
so that
love
they
it.
can consult photographers as well when they're asking about tripod height, distance from camera, what type of lens to use, what is same focal plane. Our team can handle all that because they're physically practicing it inside our offices, so they understand what you guys are doing as well. So that's something we started this summer. And as I was saying, I kind of asked photographers to prepare in, January, February, June, and July. We do the same as well. And you'll even see some slight changes this fall, because we just want our design team just design. That's all we want them to deal with. So, we have our order validation team. They now validate your CSV and your images to make sure everything lines up. They move that to design. Well, design will now just get everything extracted, prepared. We've now got a graphic output team that's going to be in place. Their job is to build all those graphics out. And then we have a proofing team that'll be in place, and they'll handle any quick proofs or problems or issues. They'll take care of that. So what we're just trying to do is streamline everything across from department to department to keep everything moving, to even try to speed up our turnaround times for you guys.
I mean, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love hearing that. And that
Well, we're
probably,
always learning it, and we want to know what we can do better because look, I'm in with you. I want you to be able to grow. And I want you to be able to grow without the pressure or feeling of taking on that new work. And having these turnaround times that just aren't feasible for you. We want to keep that smooth and fast and simple. And so we're still learning too, and we always will. We'll never be perfect. We'll
right. Well,
always.
no, no one, I mean, it's a constant cycle of, I mean, things change so much. Technology changes, you know, you, if you're not growing, if you're not adapting and learning and updating your workflow, you're just going to fall behind and not make any money. Like you said, I mean, that's the only way you're going to grow. And, I
Well,
don't need to grow right now. I've got more work than I know what to do.
which is fantastic. I think that's fantastic for you.
I
And
mean, yeah, we've picked up a private school, largest private school here in Springdale. Um, we've done their youth sports for the last 3 or 4 years, and we've done like their football program for their junior high and high school football team. And I got an email from them in June that said, "Hey, we need you to send us not really a bid. They just wanted information about how we do everything." Because they had a committee that they said we're going to just go with one photographer for everything. And
okay.
I panicked because I didn't want to lose any of it. But the youth football program at that school was a $10,000 job. I
Okay.
mean, it was football and cheer, and that's just such a. I don't want to lose that.
No.
But they decided to go with us, and
Good.
it helps that we're five. I live 5 minutes from that school, and we give them a week for any kids to make up pictures. I just set up. I have a place here in my home that I set up, and we try to work as best we can to accommodate each program that we work with within reason, obviously. But I think that's one of the things that sets us apart, maybe, is that, we do look at each, we don't have a steadfast, this is what we do, and this is all that we do, and this is the only thing we're going to do. We, we are very fluid as far as adapting to what each program needs.
Good point. And that was kind of leading into my next question. There's a lot of opportunities where people are now moving away from portrait or adding to their portrait side where they're moving into volume. What are 3 tips you could share for newer or even intermediate volume photographers that would help their business? What are 3 things that you've learned and experienced that, gosh, if I had started this earlier, it would have made life better, or whatever? What would you say?
The first thing, I mean, I don't know that I would have survived doing that first big volume job, especially with composites, had I not gone to that conference.
Yeah.
Education, I mean, it is so different. I was a natural light portrait photographer. I did not use off camera flash unless, very rarely did I, and it usually didn't look very good if I did, because I didn't know what I was doing. And
Sure.
so, education, you gotta, it's, it's a whole different animal. And if you're going to do it right, learn what you need to learn how to light it properly, learn how to use a green screen if that's the way you're going to go, learn, you're posing. I mean, it all there's more to it than a lot of, I think, portrait photographers realize. I mean, it yes, it's not as artistic and but I mean, there's more to it. Education is just really important. I mean, that might be number 1 and 2. I don't know. But and if nothing else, you go to a conference and you network and you find out you meet people that do the same thing you're wanting to do or that you do, and that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, I couldn't do it without the relationships that I've built by going to conferences and knowing people that do what I do in other parts of the country. I don't have a lot of competition. I mean, since I've started, I know of 3 other people that kind of do what I do in the Northwest Arkansas area, not at the volume that I do, but they are doing it. But you've just got to have somebody to bounce ideas off of or gripe about stuff too. I mean, it just to maintain your sanity. And so I mean, I'd say education, networking, and then I mean, if you're going to really do volume and do big volume, I mean, one travel team is not volume. But
Yeah.
if you're going to take on a league or schools, anything like that, you've got to make sure you're managing your time and look into ways to save yourself time so that you can go make more money. Like you said, if you're not behind the camera, you're not making any money. And so figuring out the rest of your team, so to speak, whether it's Rebuku or Next Gen or Got Photo or Photo Day or whoever it is that's going to help you on the back end get the work done in a timely manner, you know, I just don't think you're not going to grow. You're not going to be you're going to burn out before you get anywhere.
Now within a few years. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm glad you brought up education because I think it is kind of important to touch upon at least 2 conferences, and that's SPAC and Sync. I think for
Yes.
volume photography, those are your top-notch conferences to go to. And obviously,
Definitely.
I'm excited that Stella and I get to teach
Can't wait.
at Sync this year. So
I'll be
anybody,
on the front row.
thank you. Anybody we're doing a 3-hour program.
I know. I can't wait.
So anybody looking to learn volume, you really need to check out Sync at synkrocks.com and get.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's in Florida.
It's in Destin, Florida. It's a gorgeous area, and really, Sync is family. You know,
Yeah.
If it's going to be your first time, within day 1, day 2, you're going to have so many friends.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
become part of your family.
Yeah. Track me down if you're new. And I mean, I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing anything that I've done, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm an open book. People have opened up to me and shared secrets with me. Um, when I first started doing portraits, I reached out to a photographer in my area that I really admired. Her work was beautiful and totally ghosted me. I mean, and I just don't feel like there's any room for that.
Yeah.
I love making friends. I love talking to people. So, I mean, if anyone watches this and if you come to Sync, look for me, hit me up, whatever. Ty can put track me down for it. I'm happy to sit and talk with you as well. And I know so many other people are too. I mean, I talk about Kimberly and Stella, but there are numerous other photographers that will be at I know at Sync that you can learn so much from. And it's invaluable and it's a lot of fun. So, and SPAC, I've been to SPAC one time and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. I'm kind of kicking around the idea of going back again this year. I don't think I'm going to go to imaging, even though imaging is really working hard to incorporate more volume.
Yeah, I think
photography.
they've been working on it for a few years. They're still trying to get traction on that.
Yeah, I know they've got a couple of. I mean, they've got got a couple of really good people speaking this year. Friends of mine that
Okay.
I've met along the way. But and it's so they're working more to incorporate volume into their and it's a great conference as well. So
Yeah, SPAC is, I think, SPAC is in January.
January.
Yeah, Sync will be in February, late February. Um,
Imaging is February 2nd through the 5th.
okay.
I only
So,
know that because that's during my birthday, so I'd already looked at that. But
so that January, February timeframe, you got three great conferences to get educated and really put a game plan together. And what I like to tell people, because you're going to go and you're going to take all these notes and you're going to be so overwhelmed. And what I really like to tell people, just pick three items, three of the most important items from that conference, go home and put them in place within the first week.
yep, I
And
agree.
that is some good steps to success right there. Do not try to build a mountain in a week,
Mm-mm.
you know.
I always my thing is I try to find one nugget, one little nugget from each speaker that I listen to, and it could be just something very simple as even just a way to phrase something to a client or a pose or as long as and then and so just I don't try to write down everything they say and that kind of thing, but I don't know. I just feel like if you just get those, three big things for your business that you can incorporate, I think you're going to be super successful and you're going to go the right direction.
I agree. I agree. Well, I think that's about all I've got for you today, Cynthia. You've been a complete pleasure. I really appreciate you
Well, thank
sharing
you.
your wisdom with us today.
Well, I've enjoyed doing this. This is kind of a new thing for me, but I've enjoyed it, and
Okay.
hopefully something I said will help somebody or send them, in the right direction
Absolutely.
and
And those looking to
grow
get
their
set up
business.
on a enterprise solution, you've got my little ticker banner going across the bottom. Market Rebuka will get you all set up. But if you want to, I have several times. I think I've sent a few people your way or Kimberly's way or
Hmm.
Stella's way. If people have questions, you do have to understand these are good people that will be happy to talk to you, provide you ideas. So
Absolutely.
you can hit me or Cynthia up. My email's ty@rebuku.com. I'm happy to reach out to Cynthia and see if she's available. And if she is, she'll be happy to talk with you. Feel
Absolutely.
free to hit me up because no question's a dumb question, and you're not going to
Nope.
learn until you ask. So we want to help build your business and make it better for you, and that's our goal.
Definitely.
All
I'm
right.
happy to help
All
anytime.
right. Well, thank you, Cynthia. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you in sunny Florida.
All right. Sounds
All right.
good. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.